I guess Myles in that second half, I think it was 9 out of your 13 was in that second half, and with the 5 steals, I mean, just kind of what switch was kind of flipped, throughout, the course of the game.
The switch flipped when we got down. I don't like losing, and so my competitive spirit just kicked in, and I'm obviously gonna do my best to work hard for these guys because they're working hard for me. So my main focus is just trying to win, chip it away. I've been in that position before, and I just want to, show that I can help the team out.
Did you have a lot of those games at Loyola?
Actually, no, not really. Maybe like two or three. My senior year, but like before, previous years, yeah. So.
What was kind of happening there in the first half, maybe that wasn't quite clicking for you guys?
We kind of just got off to a slow start. I don't know if you've been noticing that that's kind of been the theme of these past couple games. But we just weren't taking care of the ball, and we weren't playing defense, sticking to our strengths. But we started to pick it up in the second half. But obviously they started to get hot, and so we waited a little too long to turn it on. But we made it happen.
To piggyback off my teammate, I really just think one of the main things, we wasn't aggressive. Yeah. They kind of came out really aggressive. I feel like it shocked us. And we just got to start, like he said, that's been a theme for us, a bad theme. And we just need to start coming out and delivering the blow instead of receiving it.
I guess both of y'all being veterans, when you get that initial shock of whoever you're going against, how hard is that to kind of overcome and kind of just to adjust that mental mindset, especially after a start like that?
You repeat the question again?
Just for both of y'all, like you said, when y'all got kind of shocked a little bit early on, how tough is that to kind of overcome that initial kind of hit the mouth against the team on paper you're overmatched against and all that? How tough is that mentally to overcome?
It's pretty tough on the mental. We're basketball players, we're competitors, and we're extremely prideful. So when we play a team that we're supposed to blow out and they come out and kick us in the mouth like that, it's kind of irritates you a little bit, but you just I don't know how to put it. I guess I don't know, something else just kicks in. You know what I'm saying? That pride just kind of hits hard, but it's really tough to continue to push through to that. But if it was easy, anybody could do it. Any team would be able to do it, and I think that's what's special about this team.
I think definitely from a veteran standpoint, you actually kind of have to turn your own mind and like, hey, you need to tighten up, because then we have to deliver the message to the younger people. So in order to do that, you have to kind of change what you're doing. You have to self-reflect on yourself. I feel like, at least for me, I'm like, okay, what am I doing? Maybe I'm not running hard. Maybe I'm not playing hard. And I feel like just especially between me and Myles, we're at energy. Like, that's one of our biggest components. Even though we put numbers up and all those other things, it's energy. We spread that energy. So I feel like for a veteran in that mindset, you have to turn it up, turn your everything up to turn everybody else up. It's more like a father leader type thing.
And to piggyback on what he's saying, we have a lot of veterans and a lot of guys that can lead. So, some people respond better, to others because they resonate or can relate more than others. So the beauty of that is that we have so many different guys that can step into and fulfill that role, which is why we were able to push through the way we were.
I think 30 free throws in the second half.
I just want to say one thing. Those 30 free throws in the second half goes to show how much they was hacking in the first half.
Ooh,
I'm not the one to talk about the refs, but they was beating us down.
Man, were they?
So it did feel good to finally start getting them calls.
Man, it felt beautiful.
I guess both of y'all, what have y'all seen? I mean, Kermo's here talking about the potential for Amari and TJ, especially kind of as they further progress and all that. How well have y'all seen them step up just in the absence of Ruffin, a guy who's had potential to be a great year?
Man, they've matured a lot, and they're still maturing, obviously, but they're doing making a significant improvement in such a short amount of time. And if you really seen the guys from the start to finish, like from their first guard to now, you'll be perplexed because I don't know, they're extremely talented and extremely smart, and have a good basketball IQ, and you can see it in the shows.
All I can say, I'm just extremely proud of them.
Yeah.
Just being able to step in and do the things that they do as a freshman is not easy at all. So that they're able to do it, and the mindset, I think, is the best thing about them. Like, they take coaching not only from our coach, and I probably said that in here, but not from our coach, but from us. So I think that's one of the best things about them.
And
Come on, you got a question, bro. I'm just playing, man.
Oh, yeah.
Jake, go ahead.
Myles, where does your energy come from? You know, I look at you now, you're soft spoken, you're just even keeled, but you go for dunks and you're hooting and hollering. So where do you get that from?
My girlfriend was in the stands, so no. No, my energy just comes from competitive spirit. Like, you know, I like to play. I like to laugh and have fun. But I really don't like losing. And when I step on that court, my energy just shifts. It's just a natural thing for me where everything pent up inside of me, I can let out on the basketball court. And that's really where that comes from. I play hard. I play as strong as possible. And just when you play for other people, I mean, you tap into a different, you know, mindset, a different aura and energy about yourself. It just shifts and changes. So, yeah.
Just remember saying, you know, Kurt was in here talking about how there's a little bit of disappointment kind of at times with the front court, not just in this game, but just at times, you know, just through the first 4 games. Where are y'all kind of seeing that, and you know, where do you feel like y'all can kind of go from here as kind of a, you know, front court?
I think that where there's disappointment, there's room to improve. And I think that's just one of the biggest things. Just guarding and, you know, not only for the new people, but for the old people, we're doing a different screen coverage. So I think that's a little difficult. And, you know, these games is best for us. You know, obviously we already know the coverage in practice, so we know how to play against it and know what to do against it. But now we have different people who don't know, you know, what exactly we do. So I feel like it's just a learning process for them in general and overall.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all so
Thank you,
much.
guys.